Welcome to Vegas Circle Podcast with your hosts, Paki and Chris. We are people who are passionate about business, success, and culture, and this is our platform to showcase people in our city who make it happen. On today's podcast, we're joined by a true disruptor in the housing space, the co-founder of Boxable. The company shaking up the prefab housing world with bold innovation and a massive vision. Welcome into the circle, Mr. Galiano Tiramani, man. So this is well overdue, man. Love what you're doing in the city, man, making all these changes.
Yeah,
so
thank you for having me. So like you said, I'm Galiano. I'm here in Las Vegas where we have the Boxable factory. We're building houses in a factory and trying to make housing more affordable.
Let's step back a little bit, man. So before you started co-founding Boxable, what was kind of like your big break, man? Did you start up in the crypto space, or what was kind of your first business play, to get you started and get you going in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, done a bunch of different stuff. One of the more successful ones was Bitcoin exchange back in like 2013.
Okay, that's a good time.
Oh, yeah, very good time.
It was great. So, started this business, ran that for a few years, and then the business did well, but really what did well was I was like obsessed with Bitcoin, and I loved it because I felt like it was anti-government and I hated the government.
Yeah.
So I believed in it so much that I took basically every dollar I had and bought Bitcoin. So like even all the profits from the business, I had, credit card debt and paid my rent late because I was putting every dime I had into Bitcoin. Wow. And, back then it might've been like a stupid, risky decision. There was a lot of issues with it. No one knew if it would just be banned completely, but that ended up obviously being a really good choice and, still have a good chunk of it today. So that kind of changed the trajectory of my life, just being able to pay for stuff and fund business ventures. And so that was exciting. And then once that business ended, I lived in Connecticut at the time, and then I went on vacation to California, and then I just never came back. And I stayed in California, and then I got involved with marijuana.
Okay.
And that was a crazy ass experience.
I can't even imagine.
It was like the Wild West, and that was it was like around 2016.
Okay.
So that was a wild ride.
Boy, nothing was approved. That was literally the Wild Wild West. Yeah.
Yeah. It was definitely a gray area of the law.
Yeah, for sure.
And then started Boxable while I was doing that, and eventually moved to Vegas to pursue Boxable because I saw it was a big opportunity.
That's what's up. So 2017 is when you guys launched Boxable.
Yeah, I started it on the farm in California, and then eventually it started getting some traction and took the family and moved to Vegas and kept chasing it down. And now we have, these big factory buildings and have built hundreds of houses, and things are taking off.
Yeah, Paki kind of touched on like your disruptor, and it was kind of, kicking this off, right?
Yeah.
When you seem like you jump into these things like the precipice of when it's really turning, and that is very risky, right? To kind of get in that, but it seems often to pay off for you when you do that. Kind of when you transition into this Boxable space, it's obviously less risky. I think it's more home-oriented, more structured in some of these environments, less regulation, but it is still a disruptive space. What makes you get into those places at that point in time? Like, is it just the excitement of it, or is it the opportunity?
I definitely have had kind of good timing in the market. I think 3 in a row now, getting in early on something that's changing. And I just kind of, sniff around and see opportunities and then jump in and become obsessed with it and learn everything about it and figure out an angle and then work really hard, and it pays off. And, all 3 of those things are highly regulated. And actually the housing is even more highly regulated than, the marijuana was. And we found that out, unfortunately, that there's just a lot of rules and regulations and things causing friction and things making housing more expensive for people. And it doesn't have to be that way.
That's a good point.
That's crazy that you would think it would be that way compared to marijuana and the whole space that you were in, man. And you're dealing with housing, which Vegas is making all the changes now, man. We're building in the whole nine. Why do you think that is?
There's a lot of, like special interests at play, and you've got these building departments, and it's a big tax revenue source for all these cities. They're all getting paid off of.
That's because we don't have no income tax here, so it makes a lot of sense.
Property taxes and stuff like that. And there's a lot of different layers of regulation, and there's a lot of people that don't want housing built. Like, for example, I tried to do a project here in Vegas with the Casita. The Casita is our, kind of first product. It's a $60,000 house that's small. It's 360 square feet. So it's super affordable. And we had an issue once where we went with D.R. Horton, who's one of the largest home builders in the country, one of our partners, and we proposed a project to put 100 of them in a part of Vegas, and we showed it to the city council, and this city councilman just was a total fucking asshole and, showed up at my office and said, I'm not having this low-income housing in my neighborhood. My voters won't like it. And he had the power to shut the whole project down, even though our project followed all the building code, followed all the zoning regulation. This, little politician, just on his own whim, just came in and said, nope, not having it. I'm going to block it. And so we run into issues like that all the time. And there's a lot of different ways that they can stop projects and a lot of different people who can come in and veto a project. And it's unfortunate. And, housing is more and more expensive and unaffordable. And, lots of things are going on. Like, for example, in Vegas, you have, housing has probably doubled here in price since I moved here, just a few years ago. And, there's no land to build, but there's endless land, because if you look at a map of Vegas, it's a tiny little city surrounded by, 100 miles of empty land, but that land is owned by the federal government and they don't allow anyone to build on it. So they're creating, this problem. Because why? Because a bunch of empty desert, and for some reason someone made up a rule 20 years ago that stopped people from building on that land. So, all these issues are being worked through, and as it becomes more and more of a problem, you see more people trying to fix it, more politicians trying to fix it. Governor Lombardo is trying to champion taking back that land and allowing people to build it. And, Trump wants to give that land back to the people as well. So, we might see some progress on that
might
front.
Go through your favor, yeah.
Yeah, so I would love to do a big, village build, on that land and just create more housing that people need.
That's frustrating, man. Because I notice every time I fly into Vegas, you can just see you see everything when you fly in, and you're like, "What the hell?" I mean,
people assume it's just the mountains, but there's stuff past the mountains as well. Like you go past that.
All kind of land.
Yeah, it's too much land. So
I think I read like 80% of Nevada Nevada as a whole is owned by the Bureau of Land Management. I think, if I understand that correctly.
Yeah, it's one of the, biggest, percentage of land that's owned by the federal government. So all the population of the whole state is right here in Clark County, and the rest of it's just owned by the federal government, and no one can do anything.
Which is very odd. And I think, one thing that's you touched on is they don't want low-income housing, but from my understanding as well, there's like a 6 to 8 million unit shortfall of low-income housing.
They don't want any kind of housing. They're all trying to stop it for all kind of various reasons.
Got it. So it's like all housing developments are having a challenge, or is it strictly
that's what we're fighting through. And we knew that regulations would be an issue, but I never thought it would be this big, and we do make a lot of progress, and we have a lot of projects in the pipeline, and more things are coming online. But, I for example, we just got a building permit approved in California, and it took 6 months for the building permit. Yeah. Forget all the building and all the work that has to go into it.
6 months is a long time.
Yeah. To do what? For a building department to look at a piece of paper and check a box that says okay. It doesn't need to be like that. So
that's crazy. So talk a little bit about so you guys have built 2 current factories in North Las Vegas.
Yep.
And then the next plan was Boxzilla, correct? And that's the 1 million square foot warehouse.
Yeah.
Is that still in play? Or?
Yeah, we'll see what happens next. We're just basically trying to prove out the concept that we can make mass production of housing work at scale. Because we think if you mass produce a building in a factory, the same way we mass produce all the other modern products, that we'll be able to get the cost down dramatically. Okay. And, we basically are working really hard to prove that, and then going back and, scaling that and scaling that and getting bigger and bigger. And, most houses are built using manual hand tools out on site. Everyone's driven by a job site. Yep. It takes 6-9 months to build it. So, we're saying, why not just build that house the same way we build something like an automobile? If you ever look at a video of a car factory, like a Ford or a Tesla plant, it's amazing. There's robots. It's a huge operation, a huge assembly line. And usually they're outputting off those assembly lines 1 car every minute.
Chris Rudy from Detroit, so he does all the Alfred Rudy from Chicago.
Huge industry around that. So, by doing it that way, they're able to bring the labor costs down dramatically. They're able to buy parts cheaper because they're buying so much, because they're doing it at a large scale. Yep. So that's exactly what we're trying to make work with housing. And there's a bunch of reasons why that's not the case and why it's not done that way. So we're trying to solve those issues. And the big one is that the houses are just literally big, so they don't fit on the road. So you obviously you can't build a whole house and put it on the road.
Very good
So
point,
we
yeah.
build rooms, and those rooms fold up to ship at the lowest cost. And then once we can target a big geographic area because we can ship it cost effectively, then we can scale up a factory and have a big factory that's more efficient.
That's
You
awesome.
kind of have these challenges you talked about with the regulations. And, one thing, because it's almost like you're navigating two different roads, right? And one is the manufacturing process. One is once I buy one, what am I going to do with it? How am I going to get it, ship it, transportation, logistics, regulations, et cetera. What's the thought behind, there's already certain type of environments that have these, like, to me, manufactured homes are what come to mind, like trailer park facilities. Is there opportunities to, like, buy some of these and drop a bunch of casitas in there because it's already surpassing those regulations, those locations?
That's a great business plan, Chris.
That's exactly right. And a bunch of projects we're looking at right now and projects we've done in the past are existing RV parks that already has the groundwork in, already has the foundation, already has the utilities. So all we have to do is come in and drop our product in, which is already built, so we can get those projects done much faster. And that's definitely, something we're interested in and trying to do. And you're also right that, factory built housing does exist with these manufactured homes, but the difference there is those are all kind of mobile homes, trailer park homes. So they're actually built to different code. Our houses are built to the regular residential building code, the same as the house you might live in now. And those trailer homes are built to the HUD code. So they've been able to make factory built housing work, but they kind of have this smaller niche market because if you want to go and put a manufactured HUD mobile home anywhere in Vegas that's not a trailer park, they're going to say, no, you can't do that because they're limited by zoning and other things. So for our product, we can put it in those places because it's built to the residential code. So we think, if we can make factory built housing of regular homes work, there's a really big market there versus the mobile home coded are kind of a smaller market.
Oh, interesting. That's a good point.
Huge,
Yeah.
And we were talking before we started, is the baby box, right? So that's the one that's like 120 square foot, smaller than the casita, 1 bedroom. Can you kind of share the concept of that? I absolutely loved it.
That's
I would have bought one of those. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of our one of our new products that we're rolling out, and it's us trying to make the lowest bar for housing. So it's a smaller house. It's about 120 square feet, kitchen, bathroom, and then a couch that folds out into a bed. It actually is built on a trailer permanently. So technically it's an RV.
I love
planning
this
to
idea.
sell we're planning to sell that for $20,000. You can plug it in with an extension cord. You don't need a foundation. So we've every kind of friction point that we've bumped into, we've solved with that product, and we think there'll be a niche in the market for us to crank those out and sell them. And you can't really get much cheaper than $20,000 for a place to live.
It's a home run.
Of any type of place.
Yeah, that's a home run.
Especially that it's mobile. So it's fully movable. I could take it to an RV park and post it up there. And
you can literally take it anywhere, set it up, in 20, you'll hopefully be able to set it up in 20 minutes and deploy it. And just everything about it is super easy. You don't need any special equipment to unfold it. You don't need a drill or anything.
Tell me about the plumbing again. I forgot how the plumbing is set up.
So a regular house, you're gonna get a plumber and you're gonna connect the plumbing and the electric. You're gonna need an electrician. But with the baby, you can literally hook up water to it with a garden hose, and you can plug in the power with an extension cord. So anything where it would be kind of difficult, we think we've solved all that to just make this thing super easy and user friendly.
See, mom and dad, y'all need to listen to this, man. Get you guys to move in and be in my backyard.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, I feel like, to your point, so realistically, the baby box does solve those friction points. And, what do you think, like, the next steps are from a manufacturing standpoint to solve some of those pain points for the casita products? I know we're getting some out, but, to hit those target delivery goals, those challenges you still need to be worked through. Like, how are you learning as you kind of get through these and solve them at a smaller scale? Like, what lessons are you learning to help translate into that, like, on a larger scale?
Yeah. I mean, we've done a bunch of different projects for the military, for workforce housing.
Definitely seen those have been great.
Yeah, for backyard ADUs. And then we now have a dealer network. So we have about, almost 100 dealers around the country. The dealers are like general contractors, like construction guys, developers, and then we make the house, and then the customer comes on the website and they get connected to a dealer. The dealer shows up to their site, sees what kind of stuff they need, if it needs to be any custom work, quotes them on the install cost, and then buys the unit from us, installs it, and sells it to the customer.
Okay.
So
Nice.
so we're rolling out this network, and we're feeding the customers into that network of dealers.
And are you finding like certain markets across America are just easier? Like, you go, like say Oklahoma, right? You maybe have a ton of less regulation. You can build or install them unlimitedly, and there's no issues.
Yeah, it's funny you said Oklahoma because that was actually our easiest one.
Yeah, I think I heard something about the regulations being super easy.
Okay.
Yeah, and so all of our first project, a bunch of our early projects are in Oklahoma, and we've been able to get stuff done there. And then interestingly, California has been great, and I would have expected California to be difficult because they've got a lot of laws there about everything, but
I'm actually very surprised.
Yeah.
California.
They've been trying really hard to fix housing there. So they've done a bunch of things like pass different rules to make it easier. For example, the state requires the local governments to approve or deny the building permits within 60 days. So they can't drag their feet, in theory, for 6 months or a year. They've also reduced setbacks. They allow you to put more than one ADU on a property. They allow you to build an ADU on a property and then subdivide the lot and sell it off as a separate house. You can do 2 stories. The way their state approval program works, they pawn all the approval process off on a third party. So we hire a guy to approve all our stuff, and then he tells the state they're good. So the state doesn't actually have to look at your stuff and approve it, because the third party that they've assigned, that's a private company, can do that. So we can work more closely and faster with them to get it done.
That's great. We just got to figure it out, man. We got. I want one of these baby boxes. Yeah, I want one of these baby boxes for sure. But we were talking about an idea earlier before you came in. We could be mobile with the podcast and set up.
Just have a whole studio of a
I was
baby
like,
box.
man, that'd be the best idea in general.
Yeah, that's actually a great idea.
Yeah.
And I think even just
Put
from
your branding and everything on the outside.
Even from a business standpoint, I think, Tesla has this business model where eventually, what they want to do is to be able to create them as people like robo-taxis, right? And for me, I think the big benefit of Boxable is me as an income driver. If I own property and I want to build a casita in my backyard, put out Airbnb, now all of a sudden I can put these in desirable locations and rent them out. Yeah. Are you seeing people take advantage of that even at this stage, or is it still a barrier even to do that?
No, I think that backyard ADUs, the big motivation there is for people to create, rental properties, because the numbers crunch. If you have land that's already developed, you already have power and water run to it, you've already got the house there, and all you need to do is drop down our box and hook it up, then, you calculate that into a mortgage, and then you see how much can I rent it for. I'm renting it for more than my mortgage. It makes sense as an investment. So that's why people want to do that.
Yeah, I think even just the ROI from the cost of what I've seen in a Boxable has to be upwards of 35 to 45%. Like, it's pretty desirable just to even put in my backyard and rent when I was at Airbnb.
Yeah. Yep. Sweet.
Yeah. That's a great business play. Talk a little bit about like the wait list for Boxable, right? So can you walk us through that process of say Chris and I, we want to buy 2 separate casitas now. What would that look like for us?
Yeah. So we did have, a really big number of people come and put their name on the website saying they wanted to buy the house. So I think over 170,000 people put their name on that list. And then in states where we're approved, those guys can actually go now and meet one of those dealers to get it done. In the states where we're not approved yet, we're still waiting to get those approvals, and then we'll open it up to those people on the wait list. But it is all set up to take orders now. We're approved in California, Nevada, Arizona, Utah, Vermont, Connecticut, about 15 states.
Okay. What's the turnaround time like? So say we ordered, now, what is it, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days?
Well, so we have the houses in inventory ready to go. So as soon as you can get your financing figured out, you can get your building permits turned in, you can get your foundation and utilities ready to go. We're ready to go. Like we could drop a house off tomorrow. It's just a matter of how long it takes the customer to get that other stuff done and how long it takes the dealer to make it happen.
That's powerful. Yeah. So stepping back a little bit, man, I'm a big fan of your father, man, and love y'all's relationship and how you guys have built this partnership. How did this all come about for you guys to build this together and co-found this together?
Yeah, I mean, we've worked on other stuff together in the past.
Okay.
And then when we started Boxable, I was living in California and he was in Nevada. And, you know, he had just kind of finished a big deal that he had and moved out to Nevada. And then, you know, my business was kind of on autopilot and I was just looking for new projects.
Yeah.
And so I asked him about the idea he had almost 20 years ago to fold up the house, to fix the shipping, where he invented that and filed a patent on it. And I said, do you want to take a shot at making this into a company? And he said, sure, go for it. So then I just, you know, made a website, made some renders, started showing it to people, got more and more traction, and then eventually came to Vegas full time to pursue it.
That is the coolest story.
Yeah, that's great.
20 years ago? Because your father's an engineer by trade, right?
Yeah, he's an engineer. So back in the day, the house that I grew up in as a kid, he ended up tearing it down and rebuilding it into like a new house and selling it. So that was when he first got exposed to building construction and all the issues there and thinking of solutions for it. And his old business was intellectual property licensing. So engineering stuff, inventions, and then patenting those inventions and selling them to people. And that was just one of the, you know, inventions he had kind of on the shelf. So we grabbed it and ran with it.
And do you think kind of growing up in that environment where you're constantly, you know, around somebody who's thinking about things in that way, right? Breaking it down, building it, you know, looking at things from even if it's not a problem, you know, how can I make it better or solve this? Do you think that's kind of what led to a lot of your like disruptive kind of ideals of when you're trying to pick on specific things and, you know, go after those?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, definitely being with him and hanging out in his office and stuff, you know, getting trained on that, doing different business ideas, contributed to it. And then the other thing for me is I just dreaded the idea when I was a kid of, you know, waking up and going to work for someone else. You know, I ended up creating a situation for myself where I work even more than I would if I worked for someone else. But, you know, I like it because it's, you know, for my own vision.
You own it. And you own it too. It's different.
And you have the ability to be creative constantly, right? Like if you want to, all of a sudden you get an idea for a baby box, you can make that happen. And being able to create something like that is like obviously fascinating. Like they have that ability.
Yeah.
How long a Boxable could stay? Like, is it 20 years, 10 years, 100 years?
Yeah,
like,
I think, you know, as long or longer than any traditional house. You know, we use most of the same products that you would in a regular house.
Yeah.
The difference is that because our houses are built in a factory, there's more quality control, more standardization. We're using, you know, a CNC that's very precise to cut something versus like a hand tool. So I would expect our houses to do better than a regular house.
That's awesome.
And to say something, you know, because there is that level of precision. So say something is damaged, like to my countertop gets damaged. And because there's a level of precision that you may not be able to get a contractor, is it easy to like repair some of the items that are inside the home?
Yeah, I think it's all just regular process to repair it, depending on what it is.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And do you have the ability, I know I haven't dug into it, to upgrade it? So say I have a standard Boxable or a baby Boxable and it has a certain stove or a certain TV or a certain finish. Do I have the ability to change it now or is that something that I look into in the future?
Our Casita product, we build that like standard, so they're all the same. And then the contractor could go in and change stuff or upgrade it or paint it or add a different roof style. And then our phase 2 products that we're rolling out, which is other products aside from Casita, so like a single family house or an apartment building, those have more customizability in the factory. And we're targeting not the B2C individual customer who wants to buy one, we're targeting the builder and developer. And we're saying, hey, instead of building your little village with your traditional methods, use our product, shortcut your whole process, you know, fix your costs. And then, you know, because they're ordering a bigger order, we can do more customization of that in the factory.
That makes
Got
sense.
it. About the quantity and everything. That's powerful. As far as challenges, right? Obviously, it seems like the biggest challenge would be getting the coding, getting the building department to approve things. Is that one of the biggest challenges you've kind of faced with building Boxable?
Yeah, that's the biggest issue. Then, you know, after that, you have to figure out how to do manufacturing. You have to do a lot of things differently than is the standard way.
Okay.
You have to, you know, raise money to fund it all.
Yeah.
And then just the day-to-day stuff, managing employees, things like that. But it's definitely, you know, incredibly ambitious and challenging, the whole thing. And, you know, we're really happy at how far we've come at this point.
What's your favorite part of that process? Because I think that we talk about challenges a lot, and there's always a lot of hurdles and things that overcome friction, and it is a vast undertaking. It's not a small business by any means. Like what's your favorite part of that process?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is like really challenging and difficult every day. But then when you get the small wins along the way, that feels really good.
Because now you're changing that for one person, you're changing an industry. Like must be exciting.
Yeah, hopefully.
What would you say, just with us on the business side, right? What would you say to somebody? I mean, you've done multiple businesses that, they want to get their vision out. They want to, put whatever that thought is to paper and actually make it happen. What would you say to them as far as a business nugget that, could be helpful for them to start their own company?
Yeah, I think, when you're doing stuff like this, you can lose 100 times and then win once and come out ahead. And then really you just have to be incredibly persistent and not give up. And it's like, imagine like you're rolling the dice and trying to get a number 3 and, you just keep rolling the dice. Eventually you'll get the number 3.
100%.
So you just got to keep trying.
Yeah.
It's definitely grueling sometimes.
And I love that analogy, but us being in Vegas, man, the Vegas circle, man,
that's where it started from.
Yeah,
Craps.
100%. Yeah. Just shifting gears a little bit, we asked all our guests about food, man, and then obviously becoming the Vegas mecca for food. What's your favorite restaurant? I know I've ran into you multiple times out, but what's your favorite place to go to and eat in Vegas?
Vegas is awesome. They have, the best restaurants in the world. I mean, there's so much
100%.
good stuff. It's crazy. You go to a different amazing place all the time. I really like hibachi though.
Hibachi.
Hibachi.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
like,
is there a specific
Japanese
place?
steakhouse. Oja is good.
Oh,
okay,
Oja's
yeah.
great.
Oja,
Yeah.
and they have
Oja's
a
great.
bunch
Yeah,
of
I've been there
around
Oja
town.
before. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's ever said hibachi. That's good, man. Shout out to Vanilla Rice
Yeah,
too,
we have
man.
Vanilla Rice
We
on,
had,
so.
I don't know if you know Vanilla Rice. He was at our event recently, but he's got a great hibachi place that he just opened up.
And that food was good too.
Yeah,
it was really
excellent
good
food. Yeah,
Nice.
So that's good, man. Shout out to Oja. Nobody said that before. What else, man? Anything that we forgot to ask you that you want to leave us out on that you may want to share?
I'd say, if people are interested in what we're doing, we post constant updates online, very transparent. We have, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. You can keep tabs on what we're doing and, join the journey and see what happens. And we do tours in our factory every day so people can come and actually tour the factory and email us anytime with questions or if they're interested. And yeah.
I highly recommend you guys to go check it out. I went and took a tour with you guys. It's amazing. It's just good to see that. And I just love that you guys are local in Vegas, man. Something that we can support and you change the lives of people, man. So I think it's great, man. I love what you guys are doing.
Yeah, great online media presence too. I think I've seen your dad do the walkthrough of the, or Paolo do the walkthrough of the baby box, and it was a pretty good tour of it.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of content nonstop.
Yeah,
so we're getting
good
good at
stuff.
it now.
Yeah, shout out to you guy Dave, man. Dave's a good dude, man,
Dave's
on
good.
the team. Last question I got for you is the smart investment side. So can you still buy in the 80 cents?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've raised all the money through crowdfunding where investors can come in on the website and buy shares in the company. And the minimum investment was $1,000, and that's still live right now. If people want to jump in and, have some fun with that.
So I'm assuming the goal at one point would be go public?
Yeah, definitely planning and hoping that we can go public and, that will continue to give us the money that we have to raise to make it happen, because the vision we're doing is really big and it's really expensive and it's all about large scale. So, we need a lot of money and a lot of firepower to make this happen and bulldoze through all the problems.
Well, awesome, man. Well, we support you, man, and we'll keep tabs on you guys, man. Keep bringing you back, man, to just give us updates on everything, man. So shout out to you and your whole team, man. But what's the social handles people can reach out to you on?
It's just Boxable, Boxabl.
Okay. Well, check them out, man. They're doing a lot of advertising, man, and branding and everying. So shout out to them and check us out at thevegascircle.com, man. So appreciate your time, man.
Awesome.
That was great,
Thank
man.
you. Thank you.